all ailments. The basic element which is present that takes care of all the ailments of all the diseases, and according to Ayurveda, it's called Agni, the fire. And so whether it is an epidemic or any other health scare, what is very, very important for any individual is that the fire is burning bright, and it is like in an uncompromised state. So we can make our things central around this fire, the Agni element. And since the current scenario is more about the respiratory system first, since that is the first system, which is the exposure and kind of is the portal for this condition, we can understand first how does the respiratory system gets jammed. What all will lead to the jamming of the respiratory system? So what kind of food will jam your lungs? What kind of breathing will jam your lungs? And what kind of emotions will jam the lungs? And then second, how is that with very simple techniques, we ignite or activate the Agni, the fire in the respiratory system. And anyone who is able to maintain that should live a very fearless life. How does that sound to you?
Wonderful. So tell me, in terms of the 3 ways to maintain the respiratory system.
All right. Most important, what no one is understanding is that we end up jamming our lungs with very, very wrong food, and a food which can create blockages in the lungs are very few. Okay, so first of all dairy are very capable of jamming the lungs. Fermented food, mostly like the yogurt in the Indian concept, the Indian curd is very capable of jamming the lungs. Food which is very high on salt can jam the lungs, right? And food which are very earth based, like a lot of roots like yam, potatoes, those kind of like very heavy starches will jam the lungs. And also in such a scenario, seafood are also capable of jamming the lungs. So seafood and mutton are very, very capable of jamming the lungs. They have anyways considered non-vegetarian food like meat heavy in nature, so even they will kind of end up jamming the lungs. So if we can kind of avoid fermented food or dairy, so by fermented, wherever there is presence of yeast, bread, bakery food, then yogurt, alcohol is fermented, that is very capable of jamming the lungs. People are not realizing that the alcohols may not help in this scenario. So alcohol should be really out of the systems. Heavy starchy food, and yes, so I feel these 4-5 basic guidelines in terms of food jams the lungs. Second, we need to check how deep is my breath, because carbon dioxide jams the lungs. We want to keep ourselves safe, but don't realize that we are not exhaling long. So it's very, very important to activate the fire there. Like imagine if carbon dioxide is like smoke, wherever there is smoke, there will be no fire. If we want to activate the fire here in the lungs, you need the carbon dioxide, the smoke of the lungs to be out. So very simple breathing techniques of prolonged exhalations. Maybe it may just take only 10 focused minutes to do those long exhales from the lungs, empty all the lungs. You bring in life force, which is oxygen. You pour out the death force, which is carbon dioxide. Maybe coronavirus is not the death force. It's your carbon dioxide present in the body is the death force. So since millennia, Ayurveda and yoga have emphasized on the importance of very, very long breathing. So if today's time, we can learn to really breathe from the belly and be able to focus on do the simple long exhales, it will be very helpful. So that was the second dimension of the breath. The third dimension is that of herbs. Few very simple herbs that are capable of taking care of this system. One is camphor. Camphor is the most natural antimicrobial, and camphor has the strongest, deepest affinity to the lungs. So anything which falls in kind of the category of camphor, like crystals of camphor, menthol and thymol, peppermint, they are excellent lung rescuers. So what they do is, like the fumes of the volatile oils of the camphor, they arrive in the lung. They help expand the respiratory fields because they have bronchodilator properties. With the bronchodilation happening, it is capable of absorbing all the excess fluids. And when there is no excess fluid in the lungs are healthy. So use of camphor is excellent in such a scenario. You can use it as a diffuser. You can put some oil, camphor oil in your base oil, apply it on your chest, do some breathing work with that, maybe bathe. In the Indian rituals, in almost all the cultures, they have this ritual of burning camphor and doing the dhoop, which is like in all the rooms you show this camphor thing, which is like age-old dimension, and that's where they bring in the science. So use of camphor is very, very important. Some basic herbs like ginger, clove, cardamom, cinnamon, they all have affinity to the respiratory system. So infusions or small karhas, meaning decoctions, or even just paste of that twice a day, not more, can keep the lungs very, very protected. How does that sound to you?
Fantastic. And is there anything movement-wise besides breathing that you would recommend? Any medis to release?
So to be able to facilitate breathing, this portion, like it needs to be more free. So very simple, opening up and loosening up processes of just stretching and open up, and you can do it with breath, right? And then take the arms up, pull out, and stretch out. Right? Do it with me. Interlace fingers, raise hands up, breathe. Right. So I feel what Ayurveda has said is to help people tap in this one very important space called common sense. Yeah, it's like just simple common sense that don't jam up this place. Breathe clean, like eat clean, and support this space. Just that mask is not going to really support anyone. It's a big kind of mask is amazing for the business, not for the lungs. So should we take it like kind of pause here with this and
it's fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much, Shailendra.
Yes. Thank you. I'll see you in the evening.